The beef have moved off from the close targets and we've reached the fish in the barrel portion of the day. All right, 275 yards. Should be uneventful. We'll go with no wind because it's so close and so light that it doesn't matter. Center. What's going on here? Pretty uneventful, but we got to get the rounds down the barrel anyway, and like I said, it's good to just get out, use your equipment. Leave that on for a second. It's good to get out, use your equipment, go through the motions, figure out, you know, little tricks and quirks and gimmicks for each of your pieces of equipment and where their shortcomings are and what you need to improve, and you know, get out here and get some reps. A little high and a little upwind, but I'm going to leave it. Probably a ½ mile an hour upwind. Man, we're just throwing this load together. Shoots pretty darn good. Yikes. Pretty good. All right, we got our 308 up on the table here, ready to start cleaning. Just going to show you guys what I do Doesn't mean it's the best way to do it. This is just what I do. You guys can do whatever you want to do. But this is how I clean rifles. So what I'll do is take some paper towel, wrap it around the stock. I use select size, and I'll use 4 sheets. Wrap it around the stock so I have a tail here that I can use to wipe the rod off and help protect the top of the stock. And as you'll notice when you are coming in and out, the rod will rub on this and deposit some of the burnt powder residue and copper fouling that we're trying to remove. So I already took our bolt out, got our cleaning patches, got a pistol cleaning rod and bore guide and a 1-piece Tipton rod, which I don't recommend using anything but 1-piece rods just to prevent scoring and scarring in your bore. Because of the chemicals I'm using, I'm going to use nitrile gloves. And then for juice, we have Modern Spartan Systems Accuracy Oil. This is just the oil that I use at the end when I'm done. Blistol, which is a good all-purpose lubricant, solvent, whatever. It's non-toxic. We really like it. You can use it for just about anything. And then this is a Hoppe's number 9 bottle that I bought this bottle just to get the bottle and literally poured the Hoppe's out. I took it home, poured the Hoppe's out into my recycled motor oil canister just to get the bottle. And what is in here is 50% Butch's Bore Shine, 50% Marvel Mystery Oil that you put in your car. They use that to break down the carbon. So that's what we're going to be using for a solvent, because we're trying to take out copper and carbon to get this thing pretty darn clean before we shoot our last 20 rounds through it, and then we'll be ready to start our load development. So the first thing I'll do is pull the bolt out. I'll typically hose that down right away with Blistol. Set that in a rag. I'll just hose that down completely. Wipe that off and set it aside so it's ready to go back in the gun. All the old crud off of here. Alright, well, this can just live right here until it's ready to go back in the gun. The first thing I'll do, I'll take a wool bore mop that's caliber specific for the right caliber that I'm cleaning. I'll saturate that completely with the Butch's and Marvel Mystery Oil juice. You can use a patch for this. I like using a bore mop just because I'm getting a lot of solvent in there and getting a good coating on the bore. I forgot to put my bore guide in. Let's do that first. Good idea to use a bore guide because it does keep all the solvents and crud out of your action and your trigger group and your magazine and everything else. So if you don't use a bore guide, I recommend getting one. Alright, got that in place. I'm just trying to slather the bore up real good. And removed a whole bunch of carbon, just doing that. Set that aside. And then, once I've slathered the bore, I typically don't wait because I like to get this process over and done with and get the chemicals out of the barrel. I don't like letting them sit in there. So I'll put on a bronze brush. Say it ain't so. Not a bronze brush. That's going to ruin the barrel. Slather that up with my butches and marble juice. Keep this close to me in case I knock it over. This feels an awful lot like a 7mm brush. It's not doing a whole lot. I'll try this nylon one. A little juice on that. There we go. Now we're getting contact. .40 passes with that. Wipe our rod off. And we'll put our jag on. And we'll push some patches. Now you can get as carried away with this as you want. Really what you're trying to do is just, you don't have to get it down to bare metal. You're just trying to get a bunch of that initial fouling out. So that way, when you go to do your load development testing, the barrel isn't going to get fouled out at some point mid-load development. And then you have to clean it and screw around mid-load development. So now we got it started in the barrel. I'll short stroke it down the barrel, first patch. Push it out. Got a lot of sludge on that first one, and then I'll basically cycle back and forth with you see I had no problem pulling this out, because if you get a one-piece rod and you get a jag that aligns perfectly and matches up with your rod, you don't have to take this off to pull it back through. You don't have to worry about dinging your crown. This is one place where you don't want to skimp on equipment. Get good cleaning equipment. So that first patch was filthy, so we'll run another one through. On the patch I'll put some of this marble and butches mix. Get it started in the barrel and then short stroke it all the way down until it comes out. Still really dirty. I'll do one more dry. Just pick up the residue and then we'll go back to the nylon brush. That bronze brush is I can tell it's a 7mm brush, so it's not really doing anything, which is okay. We'll make do with the nylon. I don't have any dogmatic. I guess the point is I don't have any dogmatic. You can't use this, you can use that. Just whatever you got to do to get the barrel clean. I think if you're convinced one way or the other that, you know, bronze brushes ruin barrels or whatever, it's bordering on superstition more than fact. So whatever you got to do to get it clean. Some guys, instead of using bronze brushes, will use abrasive pastes or abrasive brushes with abrasive paste or whatever. You can't convince me that that's any better for a barrel than a bronze brush. you know, that's basically sanding and polishing the inside of the barrel. So that's removing more material than any bronze brush is going to. Alright, what are we doing here? We'll go back to our jag. And I'll basically do this back and forth until it's, you know, pretty clean. I typically don't go down to bare metal unless the gun's misbehaving and I'm trying to figure out what's wrong with it. But usually I'll just go back and forth between 40 passes with a nylon brush, or I'll do, you know, maybe 20 passes with a bronze brush, and then push patches until they're clean and go back and forth between brush and patches until it only takes a couple patches and they come out fairly clean. I don't get it till it's spotless. There's no value in that. It doesn't shoot any better if you get it spotless and if you leave some fouling in there. Because you're going to shoot it to refoul it anyway, so what's the difference if you get it down to spotless or not? So see, we're still getting a bunch of sludge out. And I'm one of those guys that typically I don't over clean guns, meaning, you know, there's a few different schools of thought. If you guys watch guys like Eric Cortina or Speedy or people like that, you know, they're competitive shooters, so they clean all the time and they take it down to bare metal, and that's fine. But if you listen to guys that shoot the PRS or different competitive shooting sports like that, they'll clean every 200 to 500 rounds, and I would say that's closer to what I do than the bench rest and F-class method. Basically, if the gun's shooting and it's not doing anything weird, I leave it alone. I'll put it away like that. Like if I have a long shooting session like this, I don't race home and clean the thing. I go home, and if it was, as long as it wasn't out in the elements, as long as I didn't have the gun out in the rain, I take it home and put it away. And it lives in my safe like that, with the fouling in the barrel. There's no harm in doing that. It doesn't hurt it at all. It's a good idea to wipe the rod after every time you pull it out of the barrel, because it does pick up fouling, sludge, and whatever else, cleaning fluid. It's a good idea to wipe it every time you take it out. And I'm going to repurpose this last patch because it was almost spotless. I'm going to send it through again. And when you use these one-piece rods, they're still nice and dirty. Use these one-piece rods with a ball bearing handle. You know, when you hold onto the handle, the rod can spin freely because it's got a bearing in the handle here, which is what you want. So the rod is twisting with the rifling. Even though my hand isn't, the rod is. And that's what's important. You don't want to be running brushes and stuff like that up and down a barrel. That will wreck your barrel if you're running a bronze brush over and over and over and over down the barrel for the life of the barrel, and your rod doesn't turn freely with the rifling. So you're jumping across the rifling thousands of times, that will wreck the barrel. But as long as the brush is turning with the rifling, I don't think it hurts it at all. Nice that the wind is calm enough that I'm able to clean a gun outdoors, which I don't like doing because it's usually too much of a nuisance. Patches are blown away and everything's blown away, and that one's pretty clean. But I'll go back to brushing. Again, we're just using our nylon because that bronze one is one caliber too small, which, you know, I'm not going to lose sleep over because, again, it doesn't matter. We're not trying to get the barrel down to bare metal. Just trying to get some of the fouling out so we don't foul out during load development. You know, and for guys that are afraid to use bronze brushes, that's okay. You don't have to use them if you don't feel comfortable with it, but just know that without a bronze brush or abrasives or letting these chemicals sit in the barrel for a long time, you are never going to get it down to bare steel. You need some kind of abrasion or letting the chemicals sit in there overnight, which I think that harms the barrel more than using a bronze brush or abrasives. I don't like doing that. Just know that without a bronze brush or abrasives, you're probably not getting everything out of there. And, you know, don't think that you have to. If you go the whole life of the barrel and never get it down to bare metal, that's fine too. Just know, you know, the tools that you're using and what they actually do inside the barrel. And if you have a bore scope and you check this stuff, you'll know. But no amount of, in my experience, no amount of soaking is going to take copper fouling out of a barrel. It'll take powder fouling out if you use the right stuff, but you're not getting that copper out of there just by soaking it. Alright, we're coming pretty clean after one patch, so it means we're nearing the end. We'll brush one more time and do a couple patches with the butches and marble, and then dry it out, patch of accuracy oil, dry it out, and get back to shooting. You know, I think the biggest reason I don't clean all the time is I find it to be a nuisance, number one, but also I don't think cleaning it all the time, I think it does more harm than good, I guess is what I should say. And it's a nuisance, and I haven't seen it actually keeping the barrel too clean, in my experience, makes the gun shoot worse than better. Alright, this is clean enough, so I'm going to do 2 dry patches, a wet patch of accuracy oil, 2 more dry patches, and then we're going to get back to shooting. That's pretty much clean. That was just a quick pass through, and I'll short stroke this one. Really sop up anything that might be in there. It's pretty much spotless. Accuracy oil. I have like a lifetime supply of this stuff. Just put the patch over the top of the bottle, tip it over, move it a little bit, do it again, put the cap back on in case the bottle tips over. This accuracy oil is slicker than snot on a doorknob, so it's good for lubricating bolt lugs and stuff like that, or anything you want to make smoother than it is. So go back and forth a bunch here and really saturate the bore. That is spotless. So I'd say our barrel is clean enough, because that accuracy oil will pick up some stuff if it's in there, but there wasn't any. I'll do 2 dry patches, short stroked, and then we'll mop out our chamber and our bolt lug journals, and we'll get back to shooting. And still clean. Good deal. Alright, that barrel is clean. As clean as I care to get it for this purpose. Now, take our bore guide out, and I use this pistol rod. So I think this is a Dewey, you know. Doesn't matter what brand, as long as, again, it's got the ball bearing handle. And I guess for this it doesn't need to have a ball bearing handle, but if you're going to buy a rod, might as well buy a good one. And then I just take a wool, this is actually a bore mop made for a shotgun or pistol, but I use it to mop out whatever stuff might have got in the chamber, so the chamber is nice and dry. I jam it up in the neck area, and then I'll bring it back to where the body of the case is and kind of spin it around. Make sure I wipe all the surface area of the chamber. You'll see there's almost always some stuff in there. And then I take that off, and I'll use a slotted tip with a couple of these big round patches in there pulled from either direction. And then I'll just run that in to where the bolt lug journals are. I'll spin that clockwise and counterclockwise. Get whatever stuff might have fallen down in those journals. And that's it. This gun is clean. Alright, back to shooting. Alright, the barrel's cleanish. Got the gun pointed back out at 640 yards. We'll see how many shots it takes before it's kind of drivable again. And then I think we're going to play around out at 1,000. That's what we have left. Didn't appear to make much difference. We'll see where the following shots go. Wow. Not used to seeing that. Or after you clean it, it goes right where it's supposed to. And the subsequent shots go in the same place. Holy moly. Elevation's still good. I'm going to call that a change in wind or just the ammo, dispersion of the ammo. Everything felt good when I let it go. And right on top of it. So, wind must have changed half a mile an hour or something. I think I got a pretty good idea what the wind's doing. We'll play it with the remaining 15 rounds. We'll play around with that. We got a 2-foot square out at 1,000 yards. It's a little far for this setup, but we'll see how it goes. All right. this turned. Huh. And of course that was out of focus. If it wasn't out of focus the whole time. I think I'm going to keep my, because we changed direction, I'm going to keep my same wind call on. Send a few out there and see how it goes. Even though we're shooting farther, I'm not going to add any wind because we changed the direction that we're firing. So now we're shooting more with the wind. Not completely. No, it's the angle kind of like from 5 o'clock, so it's the wind's going with the bullet, but it's kind of going to push it a little bit left, so I'll leave what I have on for from wind at 640. Let's see how it goes. Impact, that's pretty good. A 2-foot square, take off half a minute of elevation, it's about 5 inches, and wind will come back left 3/4 minute. That's about 7 inches, or 8 rather. High center, just run with that. Low center, be the variation in bullet BC, and dispersion is showing up a lot more now that this thing's in the air for, I'm gonna guess, like a second and a half. Corner. Wind's holding steady. Another one down in the lower right corner. Barrel's plenty cool. We'll just keep going. Why not? Pretty good for just stab in the dark load. No load development whatsoever. I think this gun's going to shoot really good. And then with that same cluster in the lower right corner. Misfire. I don't know if that was me or I forgot to put powder in that one or what. I'll figure it out later. On that same cluster, I haven't changed anything in number of shots here, and I just keep going in the same place. That one's on the right edge. Take some wind off. Click 2. Can't tell where that one went. hits on there. I'm having a hard time seeing where they're going. It's pretty warm. We'll let it cool off and then shoot our last 4 and call it a day. Alright, barrel's pulled off enough. Send these last few rounds down there. Wind is about what it was when I shot a little bit ago at 1,000, but we'll see how it compares now. This one that misfired, you know, I don't know if that's, I just missed powder, or, you know, it is a new primer company, or I don't know what, but I'm going to try it again, see if it goes off second time. If it doesn't, then I'll just take it home and pull it. Alright, last few at 1,000, let's see how we do here. Yeah, she's dead, for whatever reason. Well. Alright, last 4. And should be okay. Put a little bit back on here. Left edge maybe? Maybe that hit in the center. That might have hit in the center. There's so many impacts on there, I can't. Let's see. It goes. One down on the lower left. Cluster there. I think I'm still hitting it. I'll count the impacts when we get down there, because I'm shooting 14 rounds at it, what the total is. See how many hits we got. Yep, that hit it. That's towards the right edge. Hit it in the middle. And that's it. Pretty damn good day. That hit it in the middle. And that's it. Pretty damn good day. Just come up with a load on Gordon's reloading tool and come out here and hit targets out to 1,000 yards with, I'm going to say, relative ease, considering it's a 308 with a 175 grain Match King, which is not a high performance combination. I'll put the drop and energy figures and velocity and whatever for you guys on the screen so you can see how peaked it is by the time it gets out there. What a time of flight is and all that good stuff. Anyway, good day. I think we're ready to start our load development now.